Hello everybody and welcome back to Double Play. In this video we're going to be recapping the Red Sox 2022 offseason as well as previewing their 2023 season. This is a series that we've been doing for every team in baseball. We're getting down to it. We've done over 15 teams. We're over halfway through. And so the Red Sox, they're one that was pretty busy in the news for a lot of different reasons. A lot of names tied to them, a lot of signings, a lot of losses. Jack, let's talk about the notable additions and subtractions. We've been talking about kind of all of them for other teams, but Red Sox, they were so busy. Let's just talk about the big ones here.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, busy doesn't always mean good, and so I think you got to start with the subtraction of Xander Bogaerts, who left to go to San Diego, one of the biggest homegrown pieces for the Red Sox in recent memory, and not going to be a Red Sox anymore. They also lose JD Martinez, who's been a big piece of some of their best teams in recent years. They lose all of their starting pitching for the most part, Nathan Eovaldi, Rich Hill, Michael Wacha. They've still got some guys, which we'll get to later. That's pretty much it for the losses, and then you get into the additions, and they did offset those losses with adding a in bulk at least. They bring in Masataka Yoshida from Japan, and everyone's kind of talking about the contract they gave him. A lot of people think it's way too big. I know one MLB executive or a GM said, they paid double what we thought Masataka Yoshida was worth, which take that for what you will. There's been projections that Yoshida could be pretty good in his first year with Boston, so we'll see how it plays out on the field. They bring in Justin Turner from the Dodgers. They also bring in Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin in the bullpen. Bring in a lot of bullpen arms, actually. Joely Rodriguez, Richard Blyer. They offset losing Eovaldi and all the other starters with Corey Kluber, and a couple other moves. They're bringing in Adalberto Mondesi, Adam Duvall, Jorge Alfaro, and the big thing is an extension for Rafael Devers. So after losing Bogaerts, they didn't want to lose their other homegrown piece, so they extend Rafael Devers, who I think we all assumed was going to be a free agent.
Yeah, you can get it into which one was the biggest one out of this plethora of names here. It was kind of boring, but I said it was the Devers extension. I think that's easily the most important one out of any of these, and I can talk about what bringing these kind of veterans all around, Justin Turner, some Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin to the bullpen, what they can mean for this team. But I think Devers is the biggest one. It's hard not to say that after losing Xander Bogaerts, who kind of like, are they going to get him? Or like, they kind of need to get him, and kind of thought they wouldn't, and they didn't. So I think it was important that they locked up Devers, and now the focus needs to be to build around him kind of for the future. He's still so young, and I think they shouldn't get caught up in kind of building a team, which I felt like they were doing a little bit this year, is just trying to kind of piece guys together to build around Devers. So I feel like they need to focus on building around him for a little bit more future driven, rather than signing a lot of veterans here to kind of just piece together a team that isn't going to be like maybe you can sneak into the playoffs or go 500, but this team's not going to make any noise. So I think that needs to be their focus now, is building around Devers, that you have him locked up. And it was just so important that they kept him after losing Bogaerts.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can do the good cop, bad cop, and I know you gave him a compliment for bringing back Devers, but there's no reason that they couldn't have brought back Devers and Bogaerts, and they traded away Mookie Betts a couple years ago, and so I just feel like the Red Sox don't have any excuse for not maintaining their homegrown talent, especially Bogaerts and Devers, who could have formed, one of the best left sides in baseball for a very long time on the infield. How can you expect fans to believe that you're going to be a competitive team, or that you want to be a competitive team, when you let probably their best homegrown player, I'd say that right now Bogaerts is a better player than Devers, go to a different contender in the National League? I mean, I like you giving them props at least for bringing back Devers, but I think they did that out of desperation after Bogaerts left, and I don't think that they couldn't have done the same for Xander. I think they could have brought back both. So, I mean, it's a big loss, and I think it's a big moral loss as well, and I just don't see the Red Sox being a competitive team when they're making these moves by letting some of their best homegrown talent leave.
We've kind of let our opinion on what we think 2023 is going to look like for them sneak in here a little bit. Before we move on to that, what would you give this offseason as a grade in its entirety with all these names involved?
Yeah, Red Sox fans, at least in our comment section, some of our live streams, seem to be pretty happy with the offseason. I don't think they're going to love my grade. I'm going with a C. I don't think that they had the best offseason by any means. I think that they were kind of grasping for straws once Bogaerts left. Devers extension, good idea, and I'm glad they got it done, but They paid a lot of money for Yoshida, who's an unknown talent coming over from overseas. Some of the other moves just don't make as much sense. Justin Turner, for me, you already have a third baseman in Rafael Devers. Was he the best veteran to go with? Could you not have just brought back JD Martinez? And then they let all their starting pitching walk in free agency. So, and I think the Red Sox fans are a little bit overrating this offseason. I'm going with a C, kind of right there in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I went with a C as well. And we write these little comments, but we keep our grade a secret. And so when I saw that you had Red Sox fans are overrating this offseason, I thought you were going to go worse with that grade. And I honestly would have gone worse with this grade if it weren't for... They gained points for me for the Devers extension, and they at least tried to fill the void of losing key players like Bogaerts, like JD Martinez, and signing Justin Turner, Yoshida, some other guys as well. So, I mean, you gain a few points for me for that, and like I said, I think it might not be the best strategy for going out trying to win a World Series, because that should always be a team's goal, is how do we prepare to make a World Series run, because not every team is ready to make a World Series run. That's just the truth. So I think when you look at the Red Sox, I think it was just, I like that they were active and that gains good grade from the offseason, but if it's from a team building perspective, I don't know. But I ended up going with a C because at least they are trying to be competitive, which is better than what we've seen some other teams doing.
Yeah, and that's why I think the fans see that, and they, knowing what the Red Sox have been for quite a long time, say like, okay, well, when the Red Sox are trying to be competitive and they're making these moves, well, they're going to be a playoff team. They could maybe win the World Series. They're a sleeper. I'm just going to kind of come out and say it definitively that my what to expect is the Red Sox aren't making the playoffs. And I don't think they're going to be all that close. Like, I don't think it's going to be a last game of the season they get knocked out. I'm not sure they're going to be in playoff contention for much of the year. It's one of the things I'm most confident about. I think I'm picking them as one of the teams that people might label me a hater. Them, the Angels, some of these other teams. But I am not feeling the Red Sox at all this year. Mentioned the starting pitching, which is not good. The bullpen, while improved, still wasn't very good last year. And there are pieces in the lineup that I just am not the biggest fan of. So I'm just going to kind of come out straight and say it. The Red Sox aren't making the playoffs, and that's my what to expect.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I'm even going to go that I think they're going to get last in the division once again, and I think it'll be a season where Devers shines and has a good year, and we could see sometimes stars that are the only star have bad years just because they're pitched around to, but I think Devers is still going to shine, but their lineup depth and pitching depth kind of hurts them. I was kind of looking at, when we write all these names, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, these are some solid names. Like, maybe it doesn't look that bad. And then I looked at their projected lineup, and it's just it's not very pretty. And especially you get into the bench and then the back end of the bullpen. There's just so many question marks with this bullpen. Chris Sale, can he actually be healthy? Kluber is 37 years old, so those are the top two names on their rotation. So that combined with just bottom of the order bench just does not look good for me. So I'm expecting a last place finish in the division where I'm with you, not in any sort of playoff race.
Yeah, my bold prediction does have to do with the rotation, and it might be bold, might be a reach, but I'm going to say bottom 5 starting pitcher ERA in the entire league. They were 9th worst last year, and I would come out and say that I think the rotation only got worse. Sale is right now listed at the ace, but obviously we know the injuries that he brings every season, or at least the injury potential. And you're looking at the rest of the rotation, you've got Kluber as the 2, who you just said, 37 years old. Nick Pivetta as the 3. James Paxton as the 4. Right now, Fangraphs lists Garrett Whitlock as the 5 starter. I think Brian Bayo might see some time as well, and he's kind of the only one of those names that I really like. It's just, you got a lot of age, a lot of injury risk in a rotation that already was not very good last year. Sometimes it's Fenway that can doom the pitchers a little bit, but overall, with the age, with the injury risk, and with the poor pitching that we've seen already from this Red Sox team, I'm not sure it's too much of a stretch to say that I think they end up as a bottom 5 starting pitcher ERA, but at the very worst, they're not improving from their 9th worst spot last year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I went team focus with my prediction. I ended up going with 90-plus losses for this team, and kind of maybe just saying last place in the division that almost seems implied for most divisions, but they're in a great division like the AL East, so maybe you can get last and not be that bad, but I do really think that they are going to be that bad and have 90-plus losses and be among the worst teams in the American League, even with all the veterans they have and kind of the pieces they have that might have seemed like they can produce, and they've got some solid young players like Bayo, like a Tristan Casas as well. So, I mean, you've got some looking at this lineups, like some pieces that have performed that are veterans that can perform, but I just don't see it happening this year. I'm going 90-plus losses for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to get pushback on this because Red Sox fans very passionate about, Boston baseball, and they like to believe that guys like Rafael Devers are going to win MVP and Chris Sale's going to come back and be perfectly healthy and potentially be a Cy Young contender, even though we haven't seen him really pitch in a very, very long time. I'm not feeling that there's much magic behind this team, and their roster and lineup and rotation aren't solid enough for me to think that they can get anything done really without a lot of magic behind it. So not a big fan of the Red Sox this year, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure I love where this franchise is going.
Yeah, and I will say, I think this is a team where I can be wrong about. Like, there's some that I like definitively, like, it's just not pretty yet. I'm seeing kind of what's the writings on the wall here. It looks like it's not going to be pretty for them. That's kind of where I'm going. Maybe a little extreme with mine, and I think that it's definitely a possibility. And so I think I can be wrong about this. So kind of catering to Red Sox fans a little bit. There is still hope. I'm not saying like don't watch any games because they're going to lose 90 games, but I think that's a real possibility this year.
Well, that's all we've got for you guys in today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going through the AL East all week, so if you're a Red Sox fan and you want to go write nasty comments underneath our Yankees video about the Yankees, feel free to go do that. We support leaving comments on our page. It only helps us out. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find all the rest of the videos down in the description below. I'll try and remember to link the playlist up here as well. You can check us out on all of our socials that are right above our heads. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.